So, let's talk about the Game Boys and how they improved over the years. Everything started with the Game Boy first generation. It had a black and white screen, or not really white, but yellow. It was big. It used 4 AA batteries, and the battery terminal corroded pretty often. It, of course, only played the first generation Game Boy games. It has a power switch on top. It has a contrast wheel on the side. It has a plug where you can, not charge, but you can power up the Game Boy. It has a power volume wheel on the right side, and it has a extension connector. That's what it's called, or so-called link port. It has a D-pad, some, buttons, and start and select. Pretty big speaker that is pretty loud, and a headphone jack on the bottom. Yeah, I still actually love to play on it. I won't be playing on it in a while right now, but when I will get my EverDrives, I will be using it on this one, because I like it. This one has a glass lens, and it's see-through, so it's pretty retro, you know? And I also have a modded one, actually, but that's not history. Or maybe only new one. And then, oh, wait, no, let's not forget the Pocket. The Pocket. It is a Game Boy first generation, just that it's a lot smaller. It's pocket. It fits in your pocket. Yeah, it's real small. It has the same functions, I think. The extension port, link port, is the same as in the Game Boy Color, so it's a lot smaller and it works good. Volume wheel, contrast wheel, and the power switch on top. Pretty interesting unit. And the screen is pretty good, but sometimes you can see like ghost lines, which I haven't seen that much on the first generation Game Boy. So yeah, and the screen is a bit bigger, but I have seen screen cancer more often on these, I think. Maybe not. Yeah, anyway, then we go over to the the Game Boy Light. So this is Japan limited edition. It has a power switch on top with 3 switches: on, off, on, and then light, because it has a backlight. Otherwise, it's like a Game Boy Pocket, just that it also runs on AA batteries. Oh yeah, and the Pocket runs on AAA batteries. Yeah, otherwise it's a bit bigger. It can fit in your pocket, but it won't as good as the Pocket will. So it's, to be honest, I would go with the Lite, and it's much more expensive. The Game Boy Pocket is pretty cheap, about 50 bucks. The original is also about 50, maybe a bit cheaper. Yeah, no, the Pocket is about 40 bucks. Yeah, so then the Game Boy Color. It has a color screen. Still no backlight, by the way. There is no backlight on the Game Boy first generation and the Pocket. As I said, the Lite does have a backlight, but this one does not have a backlight. It goes on 2 AA batteries. It does not have a contrast wheel, but you can change the contrast in the back. There is a screw area. If your screen isn't that clear, then you know how to fix that. Yeah, you can mod these. I have modded one. No, in one color. No, actually more colors. Same shit. Not original. Then we go over to the Game Boy Advance, and this one is a special one. It has it has a part of my heart. Not because I grew up with it, but because it is interesting. I have used a lot of time on this one. Yeah, it plays Game Boy Advance games too. By the way, Game Boy and Game Boy Light can only play first generation Game Boy games, while the Color can play both the Game Boy Color games and Game Boy first generation games. And this one can play all 3: Game Boy Advance, Game Boy, and Game Boy Color. the power switch on these they get really often like dirty, so they don't always work as they should, and then you need to open them, and then you can possibly damage them, like as you can see here, because I screwed it in too hard. That happens really often. This one also has that, so be careful with that. Otherwise, I mean, it also has a L and R button. It does not have power on the side, I think. No, under. There, DC 3 watt in. This one does not have that. So you can only run it on AA batteries. Or, I mean, if you mod it, you can also put in a battery in there. Yeah, really comfortable unit. As is the Game Boy Color. The Game Boy first generation is actually also pretty comfortable. It fits your hands really well. Game Boy Light also pretty comfortable, and Game Boy Pocket also pretty comfortable. Then we have the Game Boy Advance SP. Well, this one is known for not being comfortable. That's what I've heard. But it has a backlight screen and a color screen too. So it can play Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance games. But, I mean, yeah, if you like have a Game Boy or Game Boy Color game, it comes out a bit, so it could be less comfortable. It does not have a headphone jack. That's a minus, but it does use a battery, which you can replace. And, yeah, so you need to charge it. It has a link port. Yeah, pretty interesting device. Small L and R buttons. You could turn the backlight on and off, or front light, I should probably say. Speaker down here. The speaker actually rarely gets broken on these. It has never happened to me yet, while I have had to replace, speakers on all of these. Like, I have had problems with the Advance, with the Light, with the Color, with the... Yes, I have also had problems with the Pocket, and first generation. A lot, actually, on the first generation. So, yeah. And then we also have... I don't actually have a functioning one. Only have one that has problems with playing games. The Game Boy Micro. It can only play Game Boy Advance games. It does have a front lit screen. So, as I said, this one is defective. Yeah. Oh... Yeah, it's pretty defective. The plastic on the inside is broken up in so many pieces. I had to glue it back in, and I can't find parts left for it. Well, that's a talk for another day. It does have battery, so it needs to charge. L, R buttons. It does not have a link port, so we can't link it together. And yeah, that's it for the Game Boys. And then we have the DS Lights. There are a lot of functions here. Oh, by the way, the Game Boy Color also has like a ultra... I don't know what the sensor is. I'm not even going to comment on that. It does have a sensor. I actually have used it to turn on and off my TV. So that's pretty cool. Because I had like an EverDrive, and that was functioning for some reason. So, the DS Lite. It charges batteries. If you take the battery out, the console will restart. This is a Japanese version, but you can change language on these, which I actually did not know before. But yes, you can. You can link these together wirelessly, which is pretty cool. You can also do that with the Game Boy Advance SP and Game Boy Advance if you have a connector. So, yeah, it has... slot 2 and slot 1. Slot 1 is for DS games. Slot 2 is for Game Boy Advance games. It does not play Game Boy and Game Boy Color games. Same as with the first generation DS. This is DS Lite. DS first generation, worse screens, breaks much easier. I think it actually has the same hinge system as on the Game Boy Advance SP. But the screens are much bigger, so they break much more easier. And the shell is horrible quality. I mean, the plastic is just horrible. Like, quote me on this, it's horrible. I I have tried to replace the shell, like if it breaks, and when I mean breaks, it breaks like on 90% of these consoles. I haven't even opened this. I have one broken right here. I have another broken right there. I'm right there. Right, they break so freaking fast. Also, the DS Lite, they also have a lot of problems with the hinges, but not as many problems as with the first generation. You can actually, some people mod them by just cutting off the screen if they're defective, and using them as they call them, DS micros, Game Boy micros, something like that. Macros, maybe. Yeah. So, cool. Well, that was the video for today. I can put the Switch back and close this up. Thank you guys for watching. Like, dislike, subscribe. Tell me if I was wrong on something, or if I forgot to mention something. I don't think I did, because I talk really fast. I don't know why. Third video for today. So yeah, and you really easily lose the pens. Yeah, none of my first generation DSs have pens, so that's cool. Yeah. Thank you guys for watching. Like, dislike, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Peace out.